I'm also being joined by a esteemed panel of guests with me here on NDTV. Irana Sakamayan, geopolitical analyst, Brahma Chalani, strategic affair expert, and Ayanjeet Sen, international affairs expert. Thank you all for joining me here at NDTV. Irina, if I can come to you first, is the election outcome surprising? And what factors do you think has contributed to Trump's victory?
Yes and no. It was a surprise in the sense that towards the end of the campaign, Trump seemed to be stumbling, making many missteps. The polls were very unclear, and it was really very actually difficult to predict who would actually pull out ahead. The election was so close, and there was so much noise going on that either result would have been in some ways a surprise. Trump's election is unique because he's only the second president to be re-elected after losing a consecutive term. So in that sense, it's also a huge comeback for him. Um, and of course, the fact that he flipped two of the states he lost in 2020 is another major difference that makes this election unique. But the entire election was full of surprises, twists, and turns. Two assassination attempts, criminal investigations, trials, and even a guilty verdict in a felony. All of these combined factors make for an extremely unusual election, a whodunit of elections in some ways.
Right. Mr. Brahmacharani, how do you see this election result? Were you expecting this?
In 2016, when Donald Trump won, it came as a dramatic surprise to everyone. And his political comeback today is equally dramatic. No one expected that. Clearly, the polls that were being done in the US underestimated his strength. There is a rightward shift in American politics. Even in the traditionally Democratic states, Kamala Harris' margin of victory was far lower than that of Joe Biden in 2020. So clearly, the mood in the US has changed quite a bit. But I think internationally, Donald Trump's victory carries major implications because Joe Biden became the pro-war president, and Trump has committed to ending the war in Ukraine. The US and its allies have funneled more than $200 billion of military and economic aid to Ukraine, but that aid has failed to turn the tide in the war. Russia continues to make incremental advances. It already holds nearly 1/5 of Ukraine's territory. So ending that war would also facilitate a mediating role for India, because somebody has to intervene, some honest broker. And Modi has been ready to play the role of a broker, to broker a ceasefire. He went to Kyiv, he went to Moscow, he has met Putin a couple of times already this year. So he's in a position to broker a ceasefire. And now that Trump is likely to be the president and will be sworn in on January 20th, the US policy is likely to shift in favor of a ceasefire as a first step to ending this conflict. But Trump's political comeback is also good news for US-India relations. Now, rebuilding mutual respect and trust in the US-India relationship can begin, because that respect and trust was shattered under the Biden presidency, especially as his cognitive decline became increasingly apparent and he ceded decision-making to members of his inner circle. And we have seen how this inner circle have tried to use leverage against India, raising human rights issues, playing the Khalistan card against India, trying to interfere in India's election earlier this year. That damage to the relationship will have to be repaired, and that requires rebuilding mutual respect and trust. Under Trump, that process can begin because when he was president from 2017 onward, US-India relations thrived. He put India at the center of his Indo-Pacific strategy.
Right.
And he has a good occasion with Prime Minister Modi. So it's very good news for US-India ties that Trump is returning as president.
Absolutely. Mr. Brahmacharani, thank you for that viewpoint. Ayanjit Sen, if I can come to you, how will Trump's victory impact international relations, particularly with countries that have been critical of his policies? Mr. Brahmacharani has highlighted how it is good for India, but how do other countries which have been critical of his policies see this victory, and how will this, translate into geopolitical situation?
Well, I think, first of all, going by what Elon Musk just tweeted earlier as a game, set, and match for Donald Trump. Now, in terms of the international stuff that's going on around, in terms of what's happening, especially in terms of the violence that's going on in different parts of the world, I think what Trump administration will be planning to do, as he had said earlier in his election speeches as well, is that he wants those wars to end. Now, there are several countries which have been critical of the US, despite whether Trump is in power or Biden. So from that perspective, even if Trump comes, I think there would be, he will try his level best to kind of mediate breakthroughs in terms of diplomatic channels, because that's the only way. In fact, the US is going to anyway now take a balancing shift, because it's not just India, but even, for example, Bangladesh. Now, he had made a speech 2 days back, or 2 or 3 days back, about what's happening in Bangladesh. Now, even in places like there, in those countries as well, the similar kind of thing may be seen, because the situation is going to change. And as Mr. Chalani had earlier pointed out, that this mediating role for India is not, it may not just happen only in Ukraine, but also in Bangladesh in a different way, not mediating in a way, but will have an upper hand, no doubt. But to do with other countries specifically, I would say there would be a surprise as far as Russia is concerned, that's for sure. And, you would see a paradigm shift, no doubt on that.
Right. Before I take this conversation any further, let's rewind and replay what Donald Trump just said while he was addressing a jubilant crowd in Florida, declaring his victory. Take a look.
But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance, because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Irina, how would you reflect on the campaign strategies on both sides? Or let's just say, what Harris could have done better to, translate her campaign into a victory campaign, a winning campaign?
Now, there is a couple of factors. First factor is that there are long-standing political trends that were only exacerbated by Harris and her attitude to the campaign, which is that there were many different groups, traditional Democrats, African American and Hispanic men, Muslim Americans, many others, who have been turning away from the Democratic Party little by little over time. And this election really called it in because rather than reflect on the past mistakes, these voters were being taken for granted. They were not being engaged in real conversations. There were no clear paths to solutions to their problems or concerns. They were basically used as props, or at least many of them felt that way. So if you will look at the breakdown in the votes, you will see that the vote Trump has is popular and not just electoral. He did receive a huge amount of support, and a lot of it comes from all these people that he picked up. The Trump campaign, although it was all over the place in many ways and sometimes had completely contradictory messaging. Some of the messaging was outright racist, nevertheless took the time to engage with specific communities and to, in many ways, engage them in their own language. For instance, to use a specific example, he brought members of a Muslim American community on stage with him, understanding the cultural importance of showing that sort of public, visible respect and interest. Harris, on the other hand, also tried to appeal to Muslim American communities, but in a way that did not reflect deeper understanding of the issues, but rather catered to the loudest activists and also to her assumptions about what their interests were. A lot of these interests were not about foreign policies, one might expect, but about domestic issues, economy, education. And many of these communities were socially conservative and they were concerned about the amount of quote unquote woke messaging coming from the Democrats. There was never an effort to engage and to put to rest some of these concerns. But aside from that longer and broader issue that concerns not only Biden and Harris, but before them, Obama and many other Democrats, Harris herself failed to take into account her own mistakes from 2020 that cost her the primaries among Democrats. She failed to develop any sort of her own distinctive tone or messaging. She failed to distinguish herself from Biden.
Right.
And in that way, she fixated excessively on Trump, and she didn't offer something positive for people to latch onto.
Absolutely. Anjit saying, what economic implications can be expected from Trump's victory? We are already seeing how markets are reacting positively after Trump is leading in all states.
Well, as Trump has had earlier said, as far as the trade part is concerned, that we give the highest, putting the highest tariffs on foreign products and, of course, the reciprocal tax as well. Now, but from that perspective, it depends as not just within the US, but especially if we see down here in Asia as well, India specifically, I would say that two things could happen definitely. That the market would look up, number one, but number two, and most importantly, from a trade perspective, this Trump's continuous push, I think, with a couple from China would actually open now new avenues for India as a manufacturing hub. And I think the Howdy Modi and the Namaste Trump, both these cornerstones of the camaraderie that India and the US enjoys together.
Absolutely. Irina, if I can ask you, how would you describe the influence and impact of Elon Musk on the polls?
Elon Musk certainly knows how to attract his own crowd. He still has a lot of support from outside the hardcore Republican Party, assorted libertarian types, many people who are registered Democrats, but nevertheless share a lot of the same concerns as Trump voters who are more economically focused and less concerned about some of the social issues would still support somebody like him or look to him as an example. Towards the end of the campaign, a lot of the industry professionals gravitated towards Trump. The energy sector, uh, increasing numbers of tech sector giants, and other business investors. So Elon Musk, whatever, despite the many controversies over Twitter and some of his and slash X and his other policies, still remains very respected in terms of his successes in many areas and still admired by a lot of people. So I do think that his role in amplifying the Trumpian messaging and some of his agendas and kind of echoing a lot of it and certainly donating money did not go unheeded. I think just as the Democrats used influencers of various sorts and celebrities and Hollywood types and singers, Elon Musk was that sort of pop culture reference to bring together younger Republicans and kind of also many people from outside the party, independents, and even some Democrats who were looking for something different from Biden's policies.